All right, what's up, guys? We're back. Huddle Up Sports Podcast number 15. I'm going by fast, man. We've been at this for a couple months now. It's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Of course, Hayden with me. We're going to work on, for sure, getting some guests. Got to figure out who. We got to talk about that at some point, but we'll get a guest in soon. Today, we're hitting over the obvious of the draft. That's going to be the main topic of today's episode. And then if we have time, we might hit a little NBA, might hit a little baseball. We'll kind of see how much time we have, and we'll probably just make a judgment call. But there's a lot to talk about with the draft. So um, I feel like we got to start with the obvious, but we can kind of hit other things first if we want. But I think we got to talk about Shador and that
Yeah.
whole. Um, so I'll I'll start with this one just because I so I said a couple months ago I could see him sliding. Now, not like this, but it, his stock has been so weird. It was really high, like midway through like the college football season. He was projected to be like the number one pick, and I think it had like minus odds on it, so that was looking to be very likely. And then we obviously hit the point where Cam Ward was pretty much the guarantee, and then it was still like, okay, he could go to New York, maybe Browns take him at two. And still at that point, I kind of thought he was sliding, but I mean, based on draft history, which you know as well as I do, like a lot of teams tend to reach for the quarterback no matter what. And so it just felt like, okay, on draft day, he's going in the first round for sure. Like I did not think he was getting past Pittsburgh for sure. I bet on Shador to go to the Browns, but that was with them trading up. I thought maybe they'd try and get number 20 right before Pittsburgh and take him because I mean they need quarterbacks. And obviously he slid way down. And when I thought he was going to slide, it was not the same reason, but kind of a correlation. Like I thought it was because of his dad Dion, but more on the coaching side. Like Dion has coached him his literal whole life, and I kind of see that as a red flag, but not like the Dion, you know, antics, like not the LeVar Ball piece. I didn't see that as a red flag, but it clearly turned out to be because that kind of played into his interviews. Do we know if the interviews were the whole reason? That's kind of TBD. I don't know if we'll ever really know, but I guess it got leaked that it was the Dayball interview specifically that was really bad, which makes sense because the Giants are one of the main contenders to pick him. Listen, I mean, I feel really good, and we'll get into winners of the draft, but I actually felt like the Browns had a good draft. Listen, they've had quarterback hell forever, and now they've got five guys that can start, including Deshaun, so really four. But they've solidified that quarterback room, and Shador's a good prospect. Like he's got the antics and everything. That's for sure, a red flag. But the arm talent's there. He's got great mobility in the pocket. I think he's a smart quarterback. He should get more credit for being a smart quarterback. I think he might be even a little smarter than Cam Ward in that way. Um, I mean, I don't think it's crazy. Like, and again, I'm not super high on Shador, but I don't think it's crazy that like he maybe wins the quarterback job or maybe is number two. I mean, it seems like Joe Flacco is probably going to take it, but midway through the season, see what happens. Maybe Flacco goes out. I would rather go to Shador than Dylan Gabriel or Pickett. So I think
Yeah.
Shador is going to have a shot. Um, I think in some ways the slide could have been really good for his career, as crazy as it was. I mean, all the way to the fifth round. Yeah, you're not getting as much money, but he's not really worried about that. Um, I mean, it'll be interesting. Do you have any thoughts on the slide?
Yeah. I mean, we're not we're not professional scouts or whatever, and we don't do it for a living. I don't see. Obviously, quarterback is probably the most, you know, valuable position in the NFL, but probably all the sports because you touch the ball guaranteed every single possession while you have it right.
Yep.
And to me, I didn't think that Shadur like I get Cam Ward's talent and his like production at uh, Miami, but I think for starters, like it was just 1 year in Miami, and to be fair, he was fourth in the Heisman voting, so
Yep.
obviously he had a really good year. But like the couple years before, when he was at Washington State, and then somewhere beforehand,
He was at like a JUCO.
yeah,
Sure.
like he had solid years, but they weren't anything spectacular. And I think Shadur's production in college probably outweighed what Cam Ward did.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Colorado had basically no offensive line, no real running game, and obviously Travis Hunter is a really good wide receiver. But outside of that, they had,
I
I
mean,
mean,
their
two.
two guys were drafted as well.
But yeah, that's the thing though, is that I think that Shadur kind of raised their stock and kind of showcased them just because of
Oh yeah.
how they, I guess, played offense, but also just because of his talent. I didn't think that Cam Ward and Shadur were so far off. Like if you were to rank
Yeah.
them, they're for sure one and two. But I could see why someone would make a case for Shadur being the one, as he's kind of more like pocket quarterbacky. Um, he's basically like Jared Goff to me with a little bit more movement. I mean, obviously Jared Goff went one. I thought Shadur wasn't going to fall out of the first round. I thought for sure, like you said, the Steelers were going to take him.
Yeah.
And then when the Giants moved up um, to 25 to take, or when they traded back in, I thought it was for Shadur at the
Oh,
beginning,
I did too. Yeah.
right? And then it turned out to be Dart, which is another can of worms. But I know, like you mentioned, the Dable interview was kind of the one that didn't work out, and I don't know if I knew that at the time, but it's bewildering to me that you basically got the second best quarterback prospect in the fifth round, all because of like people say like he's got like distractions around him. Like I, I I just don't see it the same way as like other people. Like I get that he's like anticky in the sense that like yeah, like he did the dumbass uh
Mm.
like this, like that's, it's corny or whatever, but I don't really see it any different as than some of the dudes celebrating in the NFL. Like some of the stuff that goes on is way more high key, I think, than that, and it
Yeah.
gets blown under the cover because you're not Dion's kid. I don't think he's as big of a nuisance, and I don't think the situation that surrounds him is necessarily crazy. Like I think Shiloh talks more than him, and Shadura ends up having to back it up. At least at Colorado, that's how it was, kind of. And
Yeah.
even if you state Dion as like an issue, I just don't see how. I mean, he's obviously cares for his kid and wants him to go to like a good situation, and I think that the Browns are kind of an okay situation because at least they need a quarterback in a sense. I don't know their track record of quarterbacks isn't amazing, but I just don't see Dion as a problem only because I think he's loud and eccentric, but that's kind of how he's always been. It's just now that he's expressing his opinion about his kid, it's like, oh, like, target on his back kind of a thing. Like no one can realistically say with a straight face that Shador was he was the fifth quarterback taken off the board or sixth.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Like he was
He
taken
was.
behind Chuck, so
He was
definitely
taking.
not.
Listen, I'm an Oregon fan, as you know.
Yeah,
I supported Dylan Gabriel, but I said at Oregon, this guy's not an NFL guy.
yeah, and
He's not.
they
There's
took
no
him
way.
around
That was the one
before.
that crossed the line for me. No way Dylan Gabriel's picked ahead of Shador.
Yeah,
No way.
but like
Like,
if you're the Saints, like, and you're rebuilding and that team's not going to be good for a couple years, you took the 26-year-old quarterback who's had medical injury history and like hasn't had a really great year until he was 25, 26 over Shadur. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like I get the Seahawks taking Milrow in the third round. I thought that was like pretty acceptable for where it was, um, and kind of the situation that they have going on. But
yeah.
like Jackson Dart in the first round, that's got bust written all over it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I
so I really quick, I want to touch on a couple points before I forget. So, I think the key in all of this is like if Shador was like a wide receiver, I don't think it would matter as much. But as a quarterback, you're held to a different standard. And so when you were bringing up Shiloh, like no one cares if a DB is like talking crazy, whatever. Like that's fine. But as a quarterback in football, there's such a expectation to lead, and like I mean, you're the one leading the huddle on offense, right? You're the one setting the tone. Like everyone looks to the quarterback, and so I that in that sense I do understand like the red flag aspect, right? Like I do think it matters and it's a big deal, but I mean you're feeling really great if you're Cleveland because I mean you can't deny the talent. Now he might feel a little humbled after this, and he might change his complete direction for his career now that he's not going to be the guy. He's got to work for it. I mean, it could end up working out really well
Yeah,
in that sense.
no, I agree too. Like I don't even see it like that because, like, yeah, like his brother talks, but I don't really think that, like, unless this is just revisionist history, it's not like Shadur's like going out there and is just like saying like ridiculous
He
stuff.
Do you see the transfer portal stuff from last year? It was pretty bad.
But
No one
what
else is
was
doing
it?
it. It
Oh,
was
when he was
like,
calling out his teammates?
yeah, he was like, yeah, this guy's mid anyway. Like, you don't say that.
You
That's
don't say
not.
that, but like you're
You can
also
think it. That's something you like think.
yeah.
Like,
But I
listen,
mean,
I've never been a quarterback, but like, if you're trying to lead and you want guys to, play hard for you, you want your O line to play hard for you, you want receivers to run their routes. If you're transferring in to Colorado and you see, Shador like, oh, this guy is just mid, like, you're like, okay, am I gonna feel valuable as a part of this team, or am I just gonna be like a, you
but
know,
like that's the thing that I get not tweeting it, but like at the same time you're a a young 20-year-old and you're the number one or two, probably obviously number two on your team. Like
yeah,
I get, I mean, mistakes happen, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm
of
sure he learned
course,
from it and it was a stupid decision, but like, there's dudes in the NFL that beat the living hell out of women and do far worse things.
100%, yeah,
And it's
hundred
like
percent.
the fact that they're worried about like him tweeting, like, I mean, just the other day, like at least in baseball, Jazz Chisholm was tweeting out like stuff about the because he disagreed with a call or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I get it's not what you're supposed to do, but like it uh, still happens in professional sports, and so it's like I don't see it as a deterrent. And even then, it's like it happened however long ago. Like I don't really think there was much controversy this season with the Colorado Buffaloes that I can recall. That was like other
No,
than them choking at the end of the season and not having like a great finish to the year. I don't really think that I could be like, oh, this moment right here was reflective of why he went in the fifth. But
no,
yeah,
I
I can't believe.
100%. I mean, he
Yeah,
deserved to be a
I just
top
can't believe.
prospect. I'm sorry, you go, you go. I'm not talking now.
No, sorry, it was it was like cutting out. I just I can't believe that with how cheap like the contract that he would have had relative to the first round to like let's say the third round. I mean, every team passed them up at least twice, if not three or four times, just because of how many picks they had. Like if you're the Saints, you could have had Shadur,
Yeah.
like, and that I feel like that would have been a much better pick than Chuck. Like, I again, I get Seattle's position, so I can kind of excuse it, but like the Browns taking Dylan Gabriel, they could have just taken anyone else if they were already going to take Shadur, because I think that you could get an undrafted free agent who's going to be better than Dylan Gabriel. Like that was kind of dumb. Um, and then I forget who the other. There was another quarterback taken before Shadur, I think.
Um, Gabriel, Milrow,
Dart
Louisville kid. I think that was it.
was
I
it?
think that was
Okay.
it. I think it. So that was the other thing about this draft is like it was so weak quarterback wise that like it's hard for me to like Cam Ward would have been after the big three last year for sure
Yeah.
in
I
my opinion.
mean,
And then you could debate like I was very high going into the draft on Penix.
With the
I,
year
I,
Penix
I
had
would put
last year.
Penix over personally, and I would put Cam Ward over Bo. But
Yeah,
Penix and Cam Ward are close. But it's undisputable that like the big three last year go ahead of Cam Ward. I think.
yeah, yeah. No, I
So
I agree, and I don't even
so
think Cam Ward's very good. Like I don't think Cam Ward will ever reach the point in his career where he's like a. I mean, I know it's an elite group of guys, but like the Lamar, Burrow, Allen, Mahomes pack, like I don't think he'll ever reach that height. And then on top of that, like the outsider club with like Hurts, Herbert, Stafford, Jaden Daniels, uh, like that kind of like second tier to those guys. Like I think he could reach that, but I still don't think that he will. And so it's just crazy to me that one anyone ever one, it's crazy to me that the Titans needed or they thought they needed to take a quarterback this draft, but two, it's crazy to me that if a team was willing to use their first overall pick on a quarterback who probably has like a 83, 85-ish grade, like they skipped out on the dude who basically is right there with like a 78, 79 grade in Shadur. Like it's just crazy to me.
yeah, I think the Titans angle on it is interesting. We can kind of pivot to that and start to talk winners and losers a little bit. I think the the Titans, it's just hard because I, you have to believe that they really did their homework on Cam Ward and they really like him, whether we agree with it or not. I actually think he is a, like, obviously you have to be careful how you word it. I wouldn't say he has a great chance to be in that fringe top 10 area because you don't want to forecast that onto someone, Like, you got to be fair, let him develop. Um, but Cam Ward has a lot of game experience. I think he's really poised in the pocket. He's got the arm talent, I think, and his good slash bad attribute, in my opinion, is the kind of gunslinger. He has like the Brett Favre in him a little bit. Like he might have a high interception percent this year, but that might, we'll see how the Titans look. But that could turn into a lot of touchdowns as well, like in the future. Like I don't think he's like a Jameis Winston where it's like a 30 and 30, but he might have like in his peak years he might have like 35 ish 40 touchdowns with like 15 picks. You know what I mean? Like he kind of has that ability as a gunslinger to kind of be both sides. If he can just manage the picks, I think he'll be good. But there's a lot of really good traits in Cam Ward. Um, so we'll see. I mean, it's obviously the Titans are still rebuilding, of course, so we'll kind of see how it looks. But I believe in Cam Ward enough that he can be a pretty good NFL quarterback, and Shador as well, for that matter. The other guys, I'm not as high on Dart. I'm with you. I'm not sure I'm ready to say like, oh, he's an easy bust. Like I don't know,
Yeah, he's
but
easy bust.
but I don't know. Like he I don't, Dart is not that good. He's not that great. I saw in the big games when it mattered, he was not that great. So I don't know. I mean, he threw like 3 picks in that. They had to beat Florida to go to the playoff, and Florida is not that good of a team. And he threw 3 or 4 picks, 2 or 3 at the end of the game. I mean, it was just like, you can't do that. You can't do that in college. So, um, one of my draft winners, I'll give you. I kind of hit on it a little bit, and I got to see their other picks. But I love what the Browns did. They're not going to have. I mean, they have starter. One of those guys is going to be a quality starter, and I feel like one of the young guys is going to be their future guy that for years to come. So, I think they locked that up, which is huge for them. Mason Graham. I know some people on the broadcast were not huge fans of that pick for the Browns, but as we've seen in the NFL, like you need O line and D line, and you've already got Myles Garrett. Why not, beef it up with Mason Graham? I mean, I think the pick makes a lot of sense. You could have gone Genty, I guess. but that doesn't really make sense. They're not in a position to get a running back there that early, so that felt like it made sense. They could have gone tackle. The kid from Mizzou, I always mess up his name, but they could have gotten him, I guess, if they really wanted. But they were saying he's a pretty raw talent. Feels like Mason Graham was a pretty. He seems to be a consensus, like, guaranteed, very solid guy on the D line. Like, he's not gonna. That feels like a very low percent to bust. So I don't know what his ceiling is. I'm not sure if he's gonna be the next Aaron Donald or anything, but but like I think he'll be good. So I like that from the Browns. I like the kid from UCLA as well. I remember watching a couple of their games. The linebacker Carson, he's solid. Again, just beef up that defense, that front seven. That's where you want to use your picks if you don't have guys there. Like the Eagles just won off of having a good offense for sure, but not the best. But their defense was insane, and it starts in that front seven. So I like that pick. They got Judkins as well. So they didn't reach on Genty, but they got Judkins. That feels like a great pick. We talked about those two Ohio State running backs multiple times. So I'm a fan of wherever they went. So I mean, yeah. Other than that, I mean, they picked the tight end from Bowling Green, who low-key underrated. He had a really good year. It was at Bowling Green, so there are for sure some questions. But you know, you pick a tight end, try and give your offense some weapons. I'm with it. The only question mark with Cleveland's draft, I think, was Gabriel. But again, I think they were going into the season like, we've been in quarterback hell forever. Like, we have to have guys. We're not going to be in panic mode every single year. So, now they have, if Joe Flacco, who I'm assuming is going to be the day one starter, if it doesn't go super well for him off the rip, they've got 3 guys they can pivot to. So I like what they did. I don't know if Cleveland obviously is going to be like a playoff contender, but I think they can they can feel positive about like a 7-win year. I don't think that's crazy. Do you?
I would be very positive if they got a 7-win year. I think I don't know if they really have ever had a shot in the last few years at like a real contending window, but they've always been like a team that can kind of make a playoff push. I know they faced the Texans the one year and got killed,
Yep.
but like they have, I'll say, a nucleus of guys. I know Nick Chubb's probably not coming back. I mean, actually, I don't know where Nick Chubb's going to end up, but they got Myles Garrett, JOK, which I don't know if he's going to be playing or not because I heard his injury is pretty bad. But Denzel Ward, like they have guys that have made the run before, and so I think it's entirely possible for them to do something. But at the same time, I think 5 to 7 wins is something good, especially if Shadur's playing a majority of the year, which I think that's gonna be what ends up happening.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
or
when
at
you have
least
a
it
guy like
should.
that, he's got to play. Like
Yeah,
that was the hard part about picking Shador as well, that I just want to hit on really quick, then we'll go back to you. Like when you have a star like that, it's really hard to have him be a bench guy. Like remember when Cam Newton at the end was kind of bouncing around? Like he
yeah.
had to be a starter or it didn't really work, you know? And it's nothing against the guy. It's more just like if they got followers and fans are pushing for him all the time to play, like you kind of got to play him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Shador play as well.
Yeah. I'm looking through all the teams' drafts, and I'll just go real quickly over. I thought there was a lot of good drafts. I don't
Yeah, I
know
did
if that
too.
was a consensus pick, but just going. This is ESPN's NFL draft in alphabetical order.
Mhm.
I thought the Cardinals did well. I thought they got good value. They got Nolan, Will Johnson, and then
Yeah,
some
great
guys at the
value pick for Will Johnson. Are
Will
you kidding
Johnson.
me? Like, come on. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
great
wanted him,
regardless.
so I
Yeah, I think I don't understand why he slipped that far, but
they say
there's a lot.
medicals, but like I
Yeah, but the ceiling is so high. Like I feel like sometimes teams get scared to reach on a guy because of those, the medical stuff or antics
Yeah,
or whatever. Like, at some point, shoot, like if they can play, they can play. At least give it a chance. I mean,
yeah,
sure, it's a second round pick. Second round picks are pretty valuable, especially with the low contract compared to the first round picks. But so you don't want to mess your second round pick up, but still, I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, you take the guy you think can play.
yeah. I guess just keeping going through that list, I thought the Falcons were one of the teams that didn't do well this draft. I
I
thought
agree,
Jalen Walker and Pierce was a good duo to get, but the price they paid of the first, I think you and I talked about it. Obviously,
hundred
being
percent.
a fan, I was very appreciative of the James Pierce pick. I think they'll be good. I mean, I think James Pierce will be solid for them, and they needed edge guys. I just don't think that he was worth a first for next year. Um,
Great breaking news because it's right in front of me on the TV.
Dame
Damian Lillard
tore his
Achilles.
Achilles.
Yep.
Yeah,
So keep going now. Sorry, I just had to break that.
rip. I thought the Ravens had an excellent draft. They got Malachi Starks in the first at the end, then they got Mike Green at the end of the
Yep.
second. They got Emory Jones, who I think can be a decent tackle if they develop him, which they definitely can. Um, I mean, they got some other guys at the end of the draft I'm not really crazy about. They got Bilal Cohn, solid. Yeah, I think the beginning of the draft was a lot stronger, especially the first two picks.
Yeah,
Um,
The Raven with Starks. I think it's a great pick for Baltimore.
yeah,
I
put with
think,
Hamilton.
yeah, their rundown last year was, and especially early. Like I know I said this a lot that my critique was kind of their secondary, and it did kind of get better as the year went on. But regardless, it's still like in a passing league, you got to get guys in the secondary. And I don't know if this is on the broadcast or if it was on a podcast I listened to, but someone brought up like how important it is to have a safety because that's kind of your like it's like your quarterback on defense. Like in the passing league, they're the ones that are going to be picking up the tight end, which tight ends are very relevant now in our league. Um, run coverage, obviously, pass coverage. Like a corner isn't like. Do you want a run stuffing corner? Like absolutely, but like it's not necessarily their job. That's like an extra, bonus, right? Like you just want your corners to shut down. That's kind of it. Safeties have a lot more on their plate, so that should be able to really help out their defense. And like you said, with Kyle Hamilton as well, you got to feel good about that pick if you're Baltimore. Um, that felt like a strong one.
Yeah. Um, so Buffalo, I didn't like Buffalo's a crazy ton. I think they got really good rotational pieces. I think Hairston is. I don't like Hairston as much as everyone else did.
I gotta look
But
at their.
they had. I mean, they got Hairston, they got T.J. Sanders in the second, and then they got Landon Jackson in the third. They got some solid guys in the back end. They got Jackson Haas, the tight end from Georgia Tech, who I thought was pretty solid. And then Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech, who's actually pretty solid, I thought. Um, I don't know. I didn't really have much to say about the Bills. I didn't think it was the best
Yeah,
draft ever.
I agree. Nothing noteworthy. Nothing like terrible.
Yeah.
I think the Harrison pick was interesting. He wasn't really a corner that was on my watch list. Um, Now, to be fair, Barron went probably a little earlier than people thought, and we'll get into Denver's draft, but that was a kind of a weird pick, I thought. Maybe Denver was looking at Amika, possibly, and they just were like, okay, he just got picked. We're gonna go best player available, and if that's the case, like I think that's very valid. But they didn't really need corner. I wanted them to get like a early wideout or a running back. Hampton went at 22. I think that would have fit in Denver really well. Um, but anyway, that to say, like, I wonder if Barron had slid to the Bills pick, if that's who they would have gone with instead of the corner from Kentucky.
And then I guess just keeping going down the line, Panthers got McMillan, Scarton, picked up ETN later on. They got Ransom from Ohio State. I thought it was a solid draft, but I thought they were gonna go. I think I said McMillan or Walker at 8. I thought they probably could have gone Walker and found a receiver with their second rounder, but overall, not a bad draft. I don't think. Got a couple of edge guys, some safety help, just good depth, and then potential good starters.
Yep.
And then Bears. I thought the Bears had a good draft. I'm surprised they specifically took Loveland over
I
Warren.
love that pick for him, though. I love the pick for him.
I like it. I thought out of all the teams that were going to take Loveland over Warren, I didn't think the Bears were the team that was going to do it, but I definitely do think, I think he's going to be really good. Burden, obviously, I think is going to be really good. They
I
got
mean, just
Shamar.
really, or
Yeah,
sorry, keep
what's up?
going. Uh, I just think they've set themselves up for like they can't if Caleb doesn't pan out this year, which I think he is, but if he doesn't pan out, they can't say, well, we didn't have the
Yeah,
pieces.
there's no
It's how
excuses.
how a lot of quarterbacks like fizzle out, because they don't have pieces. Then it's too late, and then they're done. Whatever. Like they've built the O line, they've built a run game. Arguably, I guess we'll see how that goes, but still got to feel decent about it at least with the O line changes. And then they've got Loveland. Obviously, they picked Burden as well. They still have Keenan Allen, I believe, right? And then DJ Moore and Roma Dunze, who was a top 10 pick last year. So you've got to feel like if Caleb Williams does not work out, it's not because of and they got Ben Johnson. So and you had to do this if you were the Bears. Like you've had a decent defense. It didn't look great at the end of the year, but I think guys had kind of given up at that point. And they'll figure out defense. Or the Bears. It's like kind of the Steelers in that way. So listen, I mean, great draft from the Bears, but the pressure now is on Caleb for sure.
Yeah, I thought they could have got a running back instead of this Ruben Hippolyte in the fourth, or at least moved around. I know they
Did
traded
they
up
pick one
for
at all?
in the seventh, so not really.
Who was it?
Kyle Monangai from the Rutgers.
Okay, I don't know.
ESPN had him rated the 20 best running back.
They got
Um,
someone, so I guess we'll
yeah,
see if he plays. I don't know.
the Bengals, as per usual, had a terrible draft. I don't really even want to cover them. I don't think we even need to give them the time of day just because Stewart was a solid pick. Cool. I think Knight is solid, but yeah, I didn't like Fairchild too much. Bear Carter's solid, but I don't know why they drafted two linebackers when they already have Wilson and Pratt, unless they are going to trade Pratt, and then they drafted another guard and then a running back at the end. Yeah, they need offensive line and they never drafted, so I don't even.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
quick draft. We can move on.
yeah. The Browns, like you mentioned, Mason Graham. I really like Schlesinger.
Did you
Judkins
like
really
their
good.
draft overall?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this was a good draft. I think they probably could have gotten maybe a receiver. I think a receiver could have been cool to put next to what's his face, Judy.
Yeah.
But Mason Graham, Schlesinger, Judkins is really good. Fannin, I think, will be a good option, especially with Njoku. That's going to be kind of fun. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think the Browns. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not delusional, but I think it's a team to watch out for to, break 7 wins. I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, and they got Samson. Yeah, I like the Browns draft. I think that might be one of the best ones that we've gone over so far, at least depth wise, from top
Hmm.
to bottom. Like the Baltimore Ravens had two really solid picks and it kind of tailed off. I think the Browns, pound for pound, had the best overall draft.
I mean, getting Judkins feels like a first. It's like in any other draft, he would have been one of the best running backs available, probably number one or two.
Yeah,
And because of the stars, he slid a little bit, and so that feels like a great value pick
yeah.
in that sense.
I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I actually don't think the Cowboys did a terrible this draft. I
I
think you and I
agree.
both like Booker. I think
Yeah.
Booker's a good personality, and I think that's like very important is on your team. I think
So
the
it's funny you say that, by the way, just really quick, because I had looked at the Cowboys draft right after because I thought I really liked it, and I still do. I just don't want to be like A or A plus. I would probably put it B plus, A minus. Where are your weapons for Dak? Like, oh my gosh, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like,
Yeah,
they spent their round three on a corner, great, and the Cowboys never like do draft day trades, so they just kind of pick where they are. So they got guard, great, edge, okay, fine, and then corner with the first three. Like I would have expected them to go receiver very early, and possibly running back early, make a trade. Like I don't
yeah,
know. Still a good draft. Like
yeah.
I like what they did, but I'm probably putting it in like a B plus. Like,
I think that they like. Uh, Obviously they like Lamb, but is it
of
Tolbert
course.
who's the number two there?
Uh, yes, I believe so. I might
I
be
think that
right.
they are building confidence in him because, like you said, this is a very wide receiver light draft. Like they took. I mean, I like their first three picks because I think that their defense was dog water last year. I don't think they needed Jaden Blue though. I don't know why they couldn't have just re-signed the dude who ran for 1,000 with them last year.
Rico.
Was it Dowdle? Like
Yeah.
I
So
thought,
they have Javante and Miles Sanders. That's their running back room right now.
yeah,
Javante Williams, Miles Sanders. Like it's just like I don't know.
it's mid.
Yeah, they needed to get a couple.
They could have taken a flyer at the, like I mean, from the fifth to the seventh, they drafted a running back, linebacker, offensive tackle, D tackle, running back, D
I
tackle.
mean, they
Like,
didn't even draft a receiver. Like maybe I understand what you're saying with Tolbert, but I just I mean he could be your number three. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, they definitely needed a receiver. I wonder if maybe they think something will happen this year, and I don't know. They're not going to make a trade, but we can pretend like they are.
Yeah,
That's the Cowboys way. But yeah, I overall, yeah, probably B plus. I think is where I'm going with that.
yeah.
Um, I think you and I might disagree on this one, but the Broncos outside of Jade Barron, I thought was a pretty poor draft. Only
No,
because
I agree.
Harvey, I don't. Okay, this is what upsets me. I don't think Harvey. I mean, he was good. Don't get me wrong. Um, Caleb Johnson was there, and
Yeah.
I think he fits and is just a better player than RJ Harvey. I think RJ Harvey was a reach. Pat Bryant, cool.
Yeah, I
I
just
thought
don't know about Pat Bryant. If he's a great receiver prospect, then I'm good. You know,
he's
round three is fair, but
according to ESPN, he was the 18th ranked wide receiver. I thought they could have gotten Horton from Colorado State. I thought even the Elick Ayo Maynor guy, I thought he could have been drafted above Pat Bryant, but they obviously saw something they liked. They got Savion Jones, who's okay. Uh, Q Robinson, kind of okay. And then they got the second best punter in the draft, so that's pretty sweet. And then they got a tight end who caught four passes last year, but they were all touchdowns, so that's pretty cool.
that's kind of
Um,
insane, actually.
yeah, but
Yeah, I just think I wanted the Broncos to get running back, which they did, so we can debate the prospect. But holy shit, Miles Turner! Sorry, that was insane. You'll see that later. Holy fuck. I just I would have had them going receiver early to get a guy with Sutton. You know, you got the young quarterback, you got the great defense, obviously. Like you got to build kind of around the offense, but I trust I trust their core also. Like I trust. Sorry, I mean I trust like their management. Like I trust the GM. Like I think they're getting it right. I just if it was me, I would have probably gone receiver a
yeah,
little earlier, or even made a trade. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
yeah,
And I didn't
go-
like Barron was a good pick, but
yeah.
it doesn't really fit the team, in my opinion. So I know they had some corner problems, but in the first round, I don't know. Just seems
I
like
I
even if
think
he's
you're
good,
sleeping. I think out of every position on their defense last year, I think corner, not Sertan, by
yeah,
God,
yeah,
not Sertan,
for
but
sure.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Riley Moss, we can exchange him. I think Barron can play. I think the thing with Barron is he can play inside, outside. He can probably play. like sub linebacker. Like he plays everywhere, and he's an extremely good nickel if you just wanted to leave him there. I think he could play outside if you wanted him to. He hits hard. Like at least what I saw on Twitter prior to the draft was that in the month leading up to it, Will Johnson was phasing out of people's like most talked about players, and Jade Barron was kind of rising up boards. I think Jade, Sertan, Zach Allen, Nick Benito. Like I don't know the defense really well, but now they have Hufanga to Greenlaw. Like I think they're gonna have like an elite defense now.
Yeah,
And
so my thing is like they have the elite defense, so use your first round pick on offense. It's kind of like my critique with the Steelers. Like y'all got the defense. Like figure it out on the other side of the ball. Like I don't. That's my only complaint. I think Barron's a great prospect, so I'm not gonna argue
yeah,
there. I just think in the first round, like I think they're either way they're gonna be a top five defense. So like go get your wide receiver. I don't know. Maybe I'm closed minded there, but
they
that's
may
kind of how
also just like who they have too. I don't. I mean, I think Sutton's good, and they have guys around him, but I don't think they have a clear two.
Yes, I
Um,
just don't trust like Marvin Mims. I don't know who's the other number two. He's obviously Judy was gone.
they got
It
the guy
was
that went to RB, Devon.
Oh, yep. Yeah, yeah,
What is
yeah.
his name?
I mean, they just had a bunch of like okay guys kind of around Sutton.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I don't know. But the prospect of Barron I like overall, for
yeah.
sure.
If you want to, we can go like speed run through these. I know probably
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Houston and then for the Rams, we'll probably talk a little bit longer. But right now we have Detroit up. They took Tyleek Williams with their first pick. They invested in their trenches. They took a defensive tackle, a guard, a big receiver from Arkansas named Isaac Tesla. I don't know if you saw kind of
I've seen
him.
him play. I don't know a ton about him, but I've watched a couple Arkansas games. I've seen him play a little bit.
Seemed like a solid pick. Tate Ratledge from Georgia, solid pick. Miles Frazier from LSU seems to be a solid pick. Two guards. They took a guy from Egypt who I thought was actually pretty interesting
Interesting.
pick. I wonder how he'll play. The only thing that I didn't like was that they didn't draft like a clear number one or like an edge to put with Hutchinson. I thought that they would have did more to take care of that, but obviously they liked
Now, wait, didn't they?
the only edge they took was the guy from Egypt.
Okay, interesting. For some reason I thought they had another. Was someone out or maybe not? I mean, I think they had to invest in the trenches, which it sounds like they did, both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
So, I mean, they might be missing that edge, but I mean, I don't think I have anything crazy to say about the draft. Overall, pretty solid.
yeah. Moving over to Green Bay, I don't think I liked their draft too much. I liked Golden. I think he was a solid value pick, and then they drafted Anthony Belton out of NC State. Doesn't seem terrible. This is where it starts to fall apart. They took Savion Williams with their third round pick, so now on their roster they will have Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, Matthew Golden, and Savion Williams. So they will have a seven-man wide receiver room, and all those guys I think are in their fourth year at most.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I think they did the right thing with Golden. I mean, my critique of going into free agency, we talk about this a lot. Like, they need like a number one guy badly, and so you're picking Golden to be that number one. So I like that pick, but yeah, going another receiver that late when you already have a ton is pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I think they had an average draft. I think Golden was for sure the highlight. Love that pick, and then other than that, kind of
Yeah, I think their first couple of picks are carrying them from what it looks like on ESPN. They got some solid like mid-round value, but it doesn't seem like they really did anything crazy. We can move over to one of our teams. I know you'll have a lot to say about the Texans. I personally
yeah,
thought this was a really good draft. Higgins and
classic Nick Cook. Come on. Come on, baby.
Higgins and Noel, I thought were really good picks. I think Ursery, I think, is also a really solid pick. I think he can. I think he'll probably end up starting this year.
Yeah.
Um, Jalen Smith out of USC wasn't rated very high, but obviously they like what they see here. He was rated 31st out of the corners, which relative to where he took was probably a reach by some standards. They took Woody Marks, running back out of SC, and then they took a safety who had a pretty solid value for where they took him in the sixth, and then quarterback from Florida, and then in the seventh a D tackle and a tight end. I'd give it like a with Higgins, Knoll, and Ursery. I think that alone is an A. I
Yeah.
think the other guys that they took, I didn't like the Jalen Smith pick. I thought they could have got a different corner there. I don't even think they really needed corner depth, unless I'm tripping. I thought they probably could have got more offensive line depth and just thrown picks at it and just say, hey, maybe one of these guys turns up to camp and he's, a monster. I thought that would have probably been more beneficial than doing that with corners. But overall, I'd give this a B plus, A minus.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
I think I don't want to be a homer and say A plus, so I'm just gonna give it an A. But
Yeah,
I really liked it, really all around. I think the USC corner pick is very interesting because I'm not sure. I think Nick Casario is a big like relationship picker as well, and I think he picked Bullock last year out of USC. We picked Hutchinson out of Iowa State a couple years back, and so there's kind of some like familiarity there, which is pretty interesting. We have three Iowa State receivers, so Houston Cyclones, let's go. Um, the tackle pick, from what everything I've seen, very very good pick. He seems to be a pretty ready to play tackle. Um, and I think that was kind of the question mark. It feels like we have, like, I know there's a lot of offensive line questions, but we have a plan, I think, at O line. And so we wanted depth. And so, we got guys kind of at the end, I think, is what you were saying. I didn't see a ton of the last picks. I saw the running back as well from SC. I'm not reading too much into it. Like, I think the reasoning for that pick, Mixon, and then we kind of have a fall off. Like, our running back two is kind of a question mark. Damian Pierce had the really great rookie year and then hasn't quite gotten to form. So that's kind of a depth pick. Quarterback, whatever. If they saw value there, great. Obviously, it's Stroud's job, so not gonna, we're not looking into that. But we need a receiver, even though the media wide look is like they really need O line. Absolutely, we do. But without Tank next year, there's a lot of question marks there, and they addressed it head on early with those two picks. So I felt really good about the draft. I think it's going to look really good, and Higgins is a dog. You've got two really like tall, athletic receivers, Nico Collins and him. Yeah, it's not like I wanted Burden for sure because I think it would have given like a speed element, but Higgins is more of like a this guy can't miss pick, in the sense that like he's going to be a contributor, and I mean that's kind of what the Texans are looking for because like they're really close, so they just need like at the end of the season without Tank, it was like we just need guys that can catch balls and get open. Like it was
yeah,
ugly, so I felt really good about it. I don't want to talk too much about it. We got a lot of teams to cover, but I would give it an A. I felt
yeah.
really really good about it.
I think that's fair. I guess transitioning over to some teams that you'll be quite familiar with. The Colts are next. I thought this was actually a pretty bad draft. I think Tyler Warren was really good value. They got
I
it's gonna
didn't
be a
even.
hard one. JT Tuamoloau from Ohio State, a Polynesian guy, I'm assuming, or Hawaiian
Yeah.
person. I thought he was solid, but then after that, they took a corner from Minnesota who they kind of reached on. Took a tackle out of Iowa State who's 6'8", 340, pretty big frame. They got Giddens out of Kansas State, who I know people kind of liked. Riley Leonard, and then He got decent value with this D tackle Tim Smith in the sixth round, and then they took a safety at the end. I think they got okay value. I just don't think that they did anything to like really. I don't know.
Well,
Other than Tyler Warren and the edge JT from Ohio State, I don't think any of these guys are going to make a huge impact. I think maybe some of the corners or the corner will get a chance to start, and then other guys are just going to be depth. I didn't really.
yeah, I'm with you there. Um, 1 second, sorry. I think the Colts are in a weird spot because when you really think about it, you have the Texans who are a solid, at least playoff contending team, right? With how the AFC South is looking, you have Jacksonville making a big move, which we'll hit on later. Obviously, Titans got Cam Ward. Like it's going to be an interesting division, and I think the Colts are kind of in a weird spot with Richardson. Um, they're kind of in the mix of like we need to figure out who this guy is, or we're going to be rebuilding. So they gave him the tight end. That might help. And like I've told you, a couple times, like I really like their roster a lot. They just have a clear weakness at quarterback. So a mid draft for them for sure. Nothing that stands out, but their fate is kind of inevitable. It feels like I don't think the draft was going to make them go way higher or way lower. So
Yeah. And then going to your other division rival here, Jacksonville Jaguars. Definitely an interesting draft. A lot of different opinions, I think, on the Travis Hunter trade. Obviously, personally, I think you pick up Travis Hunter. They basically gave up a first and a second next year to move up 3 spots. It might be a lot. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be a playoff team this year, but I definitely think that they'll be in the hunt for maybe a wild card. I
yeah,
don't think anyone's going to be able to stop Hunter and Thomas, so I think that'll help them a lot. I don't
yeah,
think that the supporting cast that they drafted around Travis Hunter this year was great. Ransaw was the DB from Tulane. His grade's okay. Wyatt Malum from West Virginia seems to be maybe a potential starting piece at guard for them. And then they took Tootin from Virginia Tech, who's really fast. He's okay. Jack Kaiser. I don't know. I thought it was an okay draft just because they got Travis Hunter, but they didn't really address any of the needs I think that they had, at least defensively. They took 2 corners and 2 linebackers and a safety. And I think that they could have taken some defensive linemen to help stuff the run because they got smoked last year.
yeah. So I look at it in the Travis Hunter sense, really only because I think that move kind of shows what they're serious. Like they're serious in terms of like we're trying to build something, and I think that's huge for a team that's been pretty like even in that playoff year where they choked or they came back on the Chargers. They didn't really have an identity that year in comparison to like their Bortles run from like 2017 or whatever that was. Um, so I think they're like I love the trade for them. Did they give up some value? Did they lose in terms of value? Like sure, but they got their guy and they got a guy to line up with Brian Thomas. So huge. Um, they still have ETN there. Maybe that can help. They've got one of the most talented quarterback prospects ever in Trevor Lawrence. So, and we've seen glimpses of that. So hopefully that can really pan out. And defensively, I think people forget that like their front seven isn't great, but it's not as bad as people think. Like they've got talented young guys there. Trayvon Walker being kind of ahead of that, and then the other Josh Allen. Like they have guys there. Um, it's not a bad front seven, so I think trying to build around that. I think what makes this Travis Hunter move so interesting, not to talk about this for too long, but like it doesn't make sense if he's just a receiver. You don't pick a receiver number two and you don't give up that value. Like unless you're Calvin Johnson, which no one has been in the last 15 years out of the draft. That's like a very once in a time pick. So he better if the trade is worth it, it can't just be 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like as disrespectful as that sounds, You traded up to get a receiver and a cornerback. That's what you got. So I don't think it's realistic for him to play every single snap. I know that's what he says. Just wait until you're in the team meetings. Wait until you're at practice. Wait until you're getting hit, and then you can make your decision. I would love for them to run like like a package for him, like a third down ish kind of package, like a 3rd and 9. Okay, you're gonna make a pass. We're gonna put Travis Hunter, kind of in the flat. We're gonna put him in a zone right here, and you're not gonna throw it to this side of the field on 3rd down because Travis is there. That's kind of what I'm looking at this as, and I think if you get that, and one or two picks this year from him, along with like a really solid, productive receiver year, I think you're feeling pretty good. So they're an interesting team. I don't think that they're great, but kind of like Cleveland. Maybe I'm just being an optimist, but could they sneak out like 7-8 wins? I totally think so. I don't think that's crazy, especially
Yeah.
with the talent they have on offense already. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree.
but he's just got to get enough defensive snaps.
Yeah, I think there'll be a split. Obviously, he's not going to play every snap like you said, but I think he'll, especially if he's getting wide receiver two looks, like second best matchups on the outside. I think he'll definitely have a fun time playing with Brian Thomas. So I think that's a good
Yeah,
pick.
I
Um,
agree.
we'll try and get through some of these,
Yeah, I know. Let's just hit on like for the teams left. Let's just hit on a couple like
but we can get
winner
through them. We'll
teams.
just give like a couple words on each.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
So with Kansas City, I thought they had a pretty good draft. They kind of just let the board fall to them. Simmons, Norman Lott, Gelati, and Williams, and then Royals. I thought they had a pretty good draft. I think this is one of the better drafts, top to bottom. I liked all the players that they took realistically.
Yes, I mean Simmons was a great value pick. Um, that trade was interesting at the end of the first round. I think they just knew that Philly wasn't going O line, and they wanted Simmons, and they were surprised that he fell to them. So they got a little extra value there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean mainly that pick I think is a great pick. I think he's going to contribute next year. I think you get he had the injury at Ohio State for sure. That definitely is always a concern. But before that, he was arguably the top tackle in the draft, no question. So feels like Kansas City once again gets value somehow. How do they do it? I don't know. But don't be surprised if he's pretty solid.
yeah. Chargers, real quick. They got Hampton. I wasn't a fan of the pick. I thought they could have gotten a receiver in the first and then running back in the second. They picked Trey Harris in the second. Good pick.
Yep.
And then kind of filled out some needs along. They got the defensive tackle, an edge, another receiver, a receiving tight end, an offensive tackle, and a couple of safeties. I thought it was an okay draft, but I didn't really like going Hampton in the first.
Yeah, I think the Hampton pick in the first is just a Harbaugh pick. Like he wants to
Yeah,
run the ball at the core, and they still. It would be a big complaint if they didn't get Trey Harris, but they still did. So, got to give him some
yeah,
credit there. Um, yeah, I don't love the Hampton pick either, but it's a Harbaugh pick. They clearly just want to run the ball down your throat and get play action with Herbert going. So, we'll see if it works.
yeah. Rams. I could give you my 2 cents for about an hour on this. I thought they
Yeah,
reached for Ferguson. I like the pick, obviously, or the trade to get the first next year. I think Ferguson has a lot of potential, but I think that's what they're drafting him for, and I still think they could have got him in the third. Josiah Stewart, I think he's a good rotational edge from Michigan. I think he'll contribute this year, and he may honestly be the replacement for Byron Young because I don't think they're going to want to pay him. Jarquez Hunter, kind of an odd pick at running back. He's literally Kyron and Corum, but he's just the fast version of them. So they love that like mold. Ty Hamilton, interesting pick at D tackle. I didn't think that they needed this. I thought they could have gone corner here. They
I
got
agree.
Chris Paul in the fifth round, who was the fourth highest linebacker, at least rating wise. I thought he was a really good pick. He's going to be a starter, and he's going to be, I think, an intense player. And then they got Konata Mumpfield, who I think is going to be. I don't think he's going to be the Puka Nakua of the team for this year, but I definitely think he'll get opportunities. And from what I've seen, he is a route technician, so I think he's going to fit very well in the Rams offense. I give it like a B.
Yeah, I think I love them trading out of that pick. I mean, good GMs just fleece the bad teams every year. And then it's like, why are we bad again? It's like, well, you read and I know I'm talking more about the Falcons here, but it's because the Rams made a great move. If you're getting an offer, even if you like a guy in that spot, why not trade out and get value? I mean, like that's what the draft is. It's all value. If you have a team desperate to trade up for a guy, whatever, just do it. I mean, like, so I like that. We talked about the Ferguson pick a little bit. Regardless, even if they addressed a need. McVay really wanted a tight end and made that clear, and they needed a tight end. So I'm with it. I mean, I think we align a lot. I think their need was probably corner, and they kind of addressed that late. They could have gotten Will Johnson. I thought maybe they would even trade up after having the trade down. I thought they'd trade back up to maybe get Will Johnson, but it's kind of one of those situations where I trust what the Rams are doing. They seem to like really know what they're doing year after year, especially when it comes to the draft. They've drafted really well over this, McVay kind of Stafford era. I think you would agree with that. So
You know, I agree.
I trust it. I trust it
No,
at the end of the day.
yeah, no, I agree. Going over to the Raiders, I thought they had a good draft. Genty was obviously a really good pick. I know you like him. Jack Besh, I think, was a good pick in the second round. And then Darian Porter, I think this guy is one of the players that I wasn't necessarily interested in him before the draft, but now looking at him, I think he's going to be a solid player, 6'3", cornerback. It doesn't hurt to be that tall. They got some depth at other positions, but I thought they could have got maybe a couple of guards to secure the interior of their offensive line. But they got a couple of tackles, a couple of defensive tackles, a couple of few receivers, a linebacker, quarterback. Yeah, I think it was a solid draft.
Yeah, I love the. I know I'm kind of hitting on the first round picks. That's what I watch the most of, but I think those are the picks that really matter
Yeah,
a lot. I think getting Genty there, you're going to get. I think he's the offensive rookie of the year in a quarterback class of question marks. He seems to be the pretty clear, like I know a lot of people question his size and whatever. He played at Boise, whatever. He's legit. He's gonna have 1,200 plus yards. I think he's gonna get in the end zone a lot. He's a workhorse back, clearly. Like if you want to question all the other stuff, then don't question like the amount of carries he gets and the amount of hits. He's just a workhorse running back, even at that size. So Pete Carroll loves to run the ball, even if he doesn't at the 1 yard line. He still loves to run the ball. So I love the pick. It seems like I will get into like in a couple months. I'm sure we'll do some season previews. Look out for the Raiders. I think they're going to be a surprise team in the AFC West.
yeah, I agree with that. I don't have much to say about Miami. They addressed the trenches. I think that was pretty smart, and then they got some skill position depth after. But I thought the Kenneth Graham pick was good. Traded up for an offensive guard. I think that's a solid draft.
Yeah, nothing else to say. Just skip. It's Miami. They're going to have 6 wins anyway.
Yeah. Minnesota took an offensive guard in the first round from Ohio State. I thought that was a solid pick. They traded up, or no, they got a compensatory selection from Detroit through Jacksonville and Houston. Ty Felton out of Maryland. I think wide receiver was kind of needed. I don't know if Naylor's the third guy, but pretty good pick. And then they drafted another edge guy. They already have like a log jam of defensive players. I mean, the only thing that kind of didn't make sense to me was I thought they were going to get a corner, but they didn't, and they must think
Yeah,
that they're going to re-sign maybe Gilmore in the offseason. I think some free agents will get filled in now that the teams have kind of picked
for
up
sure.
guys, maybe during training camp, something like that. But
That's
overall,
pretty
I thought
normal. That's
it's
pretty
just whatever.
too. Yeah, I
Uh,
I don't have a solid take on the Vikings draft. Their roster is pretty complete as is. So, obviously every roster has holes, but outside of quarterback, they're pretty well balanced. So, I think they were kind of just taking best players available and rolling with that.
yeah, I think another team that won their draft, and one of the best drafts was the New England. I think Will Campbell is going to be good. Trevion Henderson, you and I talked about it. He's a dog. He's going to fight to keep Drake May upright. Kyle Williams pick out of Washington State. I thought that was a good pick. They got very good value with Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, basically a fourth round pick. And then they filled out their position. They got a safety, defensive tackle, edge. They got a kicker, a long snapper. So um, I think they addressed everything they needed to, and they got really good value in it. So I think the Patriots will finish second in that division
Yeah,
behind
listen, this was. I'm
Bills.
gonna give my draft recap on this one, then I'm gonna take a piss and let you go over a couple teams.
Okay.
Um, the Patriots were my favorite draft. Honestly, I think Will Campbell, very solid pick. Obviously, there are concerns, arm length, whatever. Like he's a solid tackle. We'll see how it pans out, but they drafted the need there, protect your quarterback. So felt good there. Henderson as well. I just think they have their identity and they built properly around May. Williams, one of the most slept on receivers in this draft. Love the tape. He was one. I actually thought maybe Houston would try and get him as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, um, I think they did really well. So
Okay.
right,
I got New Orleans and the two New York teams I'll cover.
okay.
Um, so while Hudson's gone, I'll talk about the Saints. I thought the Saints had a good pick with Kelvin Banks. I think he's going to be a starting tackle. We talked about it earlier. I don't think Shuck was the pick to make in the second round. I thought they had a lot more needs to go to. Outside of Olave, who's always hurt, they don't really have a receiver that I'm confident in. Interior of the offensive line is not very good, and I don't think quarterback was necessarily the need that they needed to address at that position. You got a defensive tackle from Texas who's not terrible. And then they got a safety who I think they got good value on in the third. Stutzman, who I think is pretty solid. Quincy Riley from Louisville, I think is actually a pretty good pick. And then they got Devin Neal, who can provide them some good snaps at the running back position. And then they drafted a tight end from UCLA, who I think has good measurements overall. Maybe he turns into a backup. While Hudson's gone again, I'm going to go over the Giants. I didn't really think that this was a terrible draft. I thought this was pretty solid. I didn't like the Dart trade up at all. Like Hudson said, that's how bad teams stay bad. Obviously, Abdul Carter, best player in the draft, arguably great pick. Dart didn't like very much. We're on the Giants. We just went over the Saints, who are pretty whatever.
Yeah, that was mid
I was
draft.
just saying, yeah, I liked it overall, except for Jackson Dart. I think Carter's obviously a great pick. Darius Alexander in the third round was a really good value. And then Scattaboo in the fourth round was good. And then Marcus Embo, who is a guard from Purdue, they got really good value on him in the fifth. I thought this was a good draft. They're going to have a hell of a defensive line.
Yeah, the Giants. The question mark there is Dart, but Abdul Carter is like a can't miss. I think he was one of the only can't misses. I think even Travis, like the Travis situation is just weird. Like I don't think he's gonna miss, but is he gonna be like this crazy two-way player? That's kind of a question mark. But Abdul Carter is gonna be like, I mean, I think he's Micah. We've talked about that. Like I think he's as good. I think he's more than capable of being that all pro guy. It's hard to put that kind of high expectation on a guy, but they have a good front seven even before that. I mean, Dexter Lawrence obviously there, Burns there. I know I'm missing one guy, but you add
Thibodeau.
Carter. Yep. Thank you, my Oregon boy. You add Carter into that, and you've got in a division with a lot of you have JD5 obviously, and what he can do with his legs. You have Jalen Hurts in that running attack. You need to have a solid front seven in the NFC East. So
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah. Um, Honestly, not a bad draft by the Jets. They got Membu, Mason Taylor in the second, then Azariah Thomas in the third, and then Arian Smith in the fourth. I thought they had good value at their first three picks, Membu, Taylor, and Thomas. I thought it was a pretty solid draft. Good start to the Aaron Glenn era, all I can really say.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, solid draft. Nothing.
and then going over to Philly, they didn't really have any blaring needs. I will say that the Jahad Campbell pick was interesting to me only because I think they could have let Zach Bond walk in free agency and not paid him the 17 million and just had Jahad Campbell play. I know he's going to be injured to start the year potentially, but I think he's a can't miss prospect. Didn't think they needed to trade up for him, but they got Makuba in the second round, who I think was solid. I think he's going to have a good career. Defensive tackle from Nebraska, solid player. The guy that I really think they're going to transform is this linebacker out of Georgia, Smile London.
Hmm.
He was a
Yeah,
guy
he's one
that I
guy.
wanted the Rams to look at just because I think he has good um, traits. I think he's going to be a pretty interesting prospect, and it says he matches up pretty well with tight ends. So, I mean, I think he might end up being one of their, finds that they have. But overall, pretty good draft.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles are a pretty perfect roster.
Yeah,
So like I don't know how many of these guys are going to contribute right away. But I did like the what's his name? I always some of these names. Jahad Campbell.
Jahad,
I,
yeah,
I like the pick. I mean, they have just shown that they can develop these SEC, um, front seven guys really well. So why not just keep doing it?
yeah,
Um, I mean, they didn't really have a glaring position of need, unless I'm like tripping. Maybe tight end, but
yeah, maybe.
maybe. I mean, they could have traded, but they were never in a position like how he was not going to trade up for a tight end. So
Yeah,
I yeah, good draft. Nothing
yeah.
too crazy.
Steelers had an interesting draft. Harmon, I know you mentioned the Steelers earlier about in reference to the Broncos. Derek Harmon, I think, is a
Yeah.
good pick. I just don't know if that was the pick to make. Probably could have contributed to the offensive tackle issue that they have. Josh Simmons was there. I thought that was a much better pick for them. I really like Caleb Johnson, the running back. I think he's going to be a day one starter over Warren, and I think he's going to be a really good player. I don't really like Jack Sawyer too much out of Ohio State. They got Will Howard out of Ohio State too. Overall, interesting draft. I didn't think it was amazing, but they got they got some guys.
Well, for once, I mean, they didn't reach on a quarterback. I
Yeah,
just, oh my gosh, I just don't get it. Like they're a quarterback away, and you don't pick Shador. Oh gosh, the Steelers really confused me because I know that we everyone knows you don't even need to be a football fan right now to know that they've got a defense. They always have a defense, but man, I don't know. Maybe Will Howard will surprise people, including myself. I mean, again, they didn't reach on him, so I guess we'll see. But right now, without Aaron Rodgers, like he's the day one starter. I
yeah,
mean, you're not going to start Mason Rudolph, so I don't know. I'm fine. The Steelers were a fine draft to me. I just am kind of like, where's your offensive move? Like you go D tackle in the first round, really?
yeah.
Let's say he has like 5 sacks and he's a great tackle for loss guy. Like you're not changing your wins from that. So
Yeah. And then to round it out, we got five teams left. First is Seattle. I thought Seattle had an excellent draft. Zabel
yeah,
addressing the offensive guard position. They got Eman Wari in the second, who, I mean, he's an athletic freak. He's probably one of the best athletes of the last 10 years. Honestly, I mean, he had a perfect score on the RAS test. I mean, he's like an animal. They got Arroyo, who I kind of wanted over Ferguson personally. In the second round, they got Milrow. They got Torrey Horton in the fifth, who I thought was also a really good pick. But overall, I mean, they got Damian Martinez in the seventh. They had a really good draft. I think they maybe could have added. I mean, it says center that they needed. I don't really think they need a center terribly. They could have drafted one. I thought maybe they could have gone like linebacker slash safety. I know Julian Love's contract might be up soon, but I know Eamon Warry's listed as a safety, but honestly, to me, he kind of looks like a linebacker. He's 6'3", 220, but it's going to be interesting to see how he's used because they got Witherspoon and um, God, what's his name? Woolen.
yep.
Witherspoon and Woolen, I think they have a really good secondary. Julian Love mentioned. They have another guy who is really good for them. He was their third corner, and I think he played when Woolen was out. But was it Job maybe? I think Job played kind of well for them. But yeah, I think Seattle's going to be a formidable team next year. Sam Darnold for that contract. I
Yeah,
would have
sure.
rather just seen them stick it out with Milrow if they were going to go this route.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting Milrow under Darnold, I think is a great value. Like it just makes sense. Um, you can because Milrow is kind of one of those raw talents. He couldn't play right away. Um, you kind of have him learn, develop a little bit under Darnold. I like that. I think that makes sense. Um, I mean, shout out my boy Torrey Horton. Let's go Rams, baby.
Yep.
Love that pick. Hopefully he balls out for him. Yeah, no, solid draft. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Going over next to another division rival for the Rams is the Niners. I thought they had a pretty terrible draft. I think
Classic.
Michael Williams was like a no-brainer pick, and I think that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. But right off the jump, they go Alfred Collins, defensive tackle. I don't think that I mean, they drafted one offensive lineman, and it wasn't even the position that they needed. They needed a tackle, especially because their backup got swooped by somebody this past offseason. I think it was Dan Moore or something more, not the guy from the Steelers, but he got a bag to go somewhere. I don't know, but they went edge defensive tackle, linebacker, corner defensive tackle. They went wide receiver, running back, safety, quarterback, guard, wide receiver. I think their only really good pick of the draft was Michael Williams. I think everyone else was pretty much a reach. Um, and yeah, I saw this and I sent it to you over TikTok. But if it wasn't for Brock Purdy, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan would literally be flipping burgers today. Like it's unreal. Um,
Yeah, I
this is a terrible draft. I think this is probably one of the worst ones. And they had what was it, 3, 6, 9? They had 11 picks. And I can confidently say that within 2 years of this, basically everyone but Michael Williams probably won't be playing. I think Alfred Collins has a chance. He's pretty big.
yeah,
But
I
these
like
other
Collins a
guys,
lot. I've seen a lot of him
yeah, I just
play.
not a good, not a good draft in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. This was a draft where they really needed to do well, and if that was a trade up, whatever. Like they need young guys that are cheap, and it just I don't know. It just I don't see many of these guys contributing that early, aside from like the first two picks. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I could be wrong. We'll see, but yeah, it didn't feel strong to me either.
yeah. Honestly, I mean the last three teams I'm looking at them right now. I think they all had relatively weak drafts, all for different reasons. Tampa Bay is next. They took Egbuka in the first, Morrison in the second. They drafted some edge help, another corner, and then Tez Johnson, your boy from Oregon.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that they needed a receiver, and it's kind of crazy to me that they took Egbuka because he seems to be like a day one kind of player, whereas like maybe Luther Burden, you can kind of have him sit for maybe a second, like a few games going into the year type of a deal. But
Sure.
I know we talked about it. Mike Evans, you paid Chris Godwin all this money to come back, and then you also have McMillan, who you drafted in the second or third round last year, and he had a really good rookie year. I just, I didn't see it as a need. I think they could have gotten a better tight end if they wanted to trade back and maybe help. Um, I mean, they had Jade Barron sitting in their lap at 19 right before the Broncos, and they decided to
Yeah.
take a receiver. So I don't know. It wasn't my favorite draft, and it wasn't probably in my top 15. I just thought it was just kind of an odd draft to me.
I agree with you. I think maybe the Amika pick was like, I mean, there's a number of reasons why it could have happened. I mean, regardless, I think he's great. Like I
He's
really,
great. I just don't. I
but
don't even think he's the. I mean, Ted McMillan went first, but like, and then Travis Hunter if you count him. But like, I don't think that. I don't think Ibuka was better than Golden, and I don't think he was better than Burden. In all honesty, at least in my opinion, I think they could have gotten a game-changing kind of wide receiver versus, you know what you're going to get with Egbuka, but I don't think he'll ever be a one. Like he's going to be a very solid two. I think Burden and Golden have upside to be ones in the league. For sure, Burden.
Yeah, for sure, Burden. Oh, I
But
agree.
yeah, um, we can hop over second to last team, Tennessee. I don't know if this is a hot take. I thought they had a terrible draft. They took Cam Ward first, which I mean, go ahead, do it. I don't really
Yeah.
think that he. So they have his pro comp as Jordan Love. He kind of reminds me of a Russell Wilson because he has the arm, he's got solid touch, and he can move around the pocket. He's like a less mobile, maybe more of a refined passer coming out of college. I just don't think that he's going to win them games, at least this season. I don't think he's going to, overhaul the team like a Jaden Daniels did last year. They took Oladejo out of UCLA. I thought that was an okay pick. The safety out of Penn State was a solid pick in the third round. Took a receiver from Florida, not really high on him. Gunnar Helm, I think, was a good pick. And then Elick Ayo I thought that was a really solid pick. But outside of that, just kind of depth guys at the end. I wasn't super impressed overall.
Yeah, it's tough when you have a number one pick because kind of all your thought goes into that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think we'll see. I think it was. I don't think it was a great draft. I don't think it was bad. I think I'm kind of in the middle. It was just fine. Um, I mean, they have a lot of holes on that team. Obviously, when you're picking number one, you have a lot of holes. So we'll see how it pans out. I think like I said earlier, I think Cam Ward can be good. He does kind of like that Jordan Love, Russell Wilson comp. I think both of those are good comps. I think they're all very similar. It's like the gunslinger kind of traits. Um, yeah, and I do agree. I don't know if he makes the team that much better. I think it makes him better, but I don't know how much. Like you're definitely right with the Jaden Williams, sorry. The Jaden Daniels, like he's not gonna Cam Ward's not gonna bring his team to the playoffs, I don't think. But I think he'll be good. It'll be interesting to see how their first season with him goes.
The thing that irritates me is that they draft Cam Ward, and let's just call it definitely not next year. They're not going to make the playoffs, and I don't even think that the year after it's a possibility. And so by that point, you're already on Cam Ward's third year of the team, and you still need to surround him with like really good talent in order to succeed. I just think that I think teams should try and build the team first and then get the quarterback, as opposed to thinking the quarterback is the end all be all solution. Because I mean, they won. Let's see, they won 3 games last year. I doubt they win more than 5.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like, is the 2-win jump really worth it to you? I mean, they're gonna be drifting. They're gonna be drafting in the top 10 again next year. So who knows? Maybe they'll get Jeremiah Smith somehow. But I don't. I didn't like Cam Ward at 1. I thought they could have traded out and just gone a whole different direction with their franchise. But I'm not a GM.
yeah. It's hard when you probably don't know who you want in that spot. It's rough. I think it also gives hope to your fans to pick a quarterback. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it pans out.
And then last team, the Commanders. I thought they had an okay draft. They got Trey Amos, who I thought was a really good prospect, and then Josh Connerly in the first, who's I think you also think he's a really good tackle.
Yeah.
Him with what's his face Tunsil on the other side, I think will be a good duo. Receiver out of Virginia Tech, solid overall. They didn't really have. They had 5 picks, kind of scattered around. I thought it was a solid draft, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, I didn't think I did think the tackle Connerly pick was interesting because you brought in Tunsil. Um, like, is this guy going to start off the jump? It doesn't seem like it, unless I'm like, I don't think they lost tackles in free agency or anything. So we'll see kind of what they do with that pick. I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. But I mean, like I talked about earlier, it does never hurts to get like trenches either side of the ball.
Yeah,
Mainly O line for sure, but D line as well. Like you just want depth there. So it's definitely not a bad pick. But
yeah,
hopefully, I just don't know how much he'll contribute because they are in a weird spot. They probably thought, last year, looking ahead to this draft, like they would be still in that rebuilding process, and then they went to the NFC Championship. So, um, yeah, there's definitely some like confusion on like what they're trying to do, but they should be in a win now mode, I would think. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but
Um,
that wraps it up.
that was solid. I thought that was a good. We went through all the teams pretty quick. I mean, obviously an hour 25, but we touched on them all. I thought it was a fun draft, man. I enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of chaos, obviously the Shador slide, um, but it'll be a lot of people were saying this is one of the weaker classes, and I get it because it's mainly a quarterback thing. But we'll see, how it looks a year from now and see because I think there's a lot like the running backs, pretty solid receivers as well.
Uh,
I mean, there's a lot of guys that can contribute pretty quickly. So very curious to see how that goes. Um, but I'm kind of good with where we're at. We're at a long hour 25, so I'm good with this.
yeah, that was a pretty solid episode.
That was solid. I like that. So as always, if you made it to the end, appreciate you making it. Socials are in the description. If you got anything, any critiques, anything you want us to talk about, feel free to let us know down below. Obviously, we're gonna have NBA coming very soon, probably next episode, and then we'll get to some baseball as well. We'll probably not hit on much football for a while. So, but yeah, that'll wrap it up. Appreciate y'all. We're out.
Peace.
Woo!